9 people, no point. Why your meetings fail before anyone speaks in 3 words to fix it. 71% of your meetings are considered unproductive by the people sitting in them, not the ones you skip, the ones you run. I'm Michael Brunner. The research on how people work is exploding. I translate that research into ideas you can use. In the next few minutes, you'll get 3 words that determine whether a meeting works before people even walk in, why it works, and 1 move you can make on your next calendar invite. Let's dive straight in. Is it just me, or is there a bad meeting epidemic? You've probably been in the meeting I'm about to describe. 9 people, 1 hour, a vague title on the invite, somebody shares a screen and clicks through a few slides. Somebody asks a question that reopens a decision that was made 3 weeks ago. The last 10 minutes are spent scheduling the next meeting. Everyone leaves, and nothing moves. The easy read is that meetings are broken. The research says something more precise and more useful. Atlassian's research on workplace meetings discovered that 71% of meetings are considered unproductive by the people attending them. Lucid put the annual cost of unproductive meetings in the US at roughly $400 billion. And a University of California Irvine study found that roughly 63% of meetings had no predefined agenda at all. Sit with that number. Not a bad agenda, no agenda. Here's what's actually happening. The meeting's not failing in the room, it is failing on the calendar days earlier when someone hits send on a meeting notice that they have not defined. The hour then gets spent doing the definition in public at full salary with an audience. And there's a second cost and no one counts it. When a meeting is undefined, you cannot know who actually needs to be there. So you over-invite, you add people to be polite so they don't feel left out. You add people to keep them in the loop. Every one of those invitations is a tax that somebody else pays because you did not do the thinking first up front. I worked for several general managers who solved this with a single rule. If an invite didn't carry a purpose, a process, and an outcome, it was declined. Not rudely, just automatically. 3 words. It changed how I plan every hour I ask people to give me. First up is purpose. Name the direction. The purpose is the why. You start by honoring people's time with a clear reason to meet. Sometimes you just have a gut feel to meet. Something needs to be wrestled down, there's an upcoming event, a competitor moved, there's a problem that needs to be solved or a gap that needs to be closed. That instinct is usually right and acting on it's a good thing. But the instinct has to survive contact with words. It can't just remain in your head. People need context, they need grounding, they need framing, they need to know how to show up. It's so helpful if they know why you're meeting and what's going to happen there. That's the first step in a great meeting. Simon Sinek built a career on starting with why. His central insight is simple. Until people realize why something matters, they have little reason to care. That is what purpose is about. I challenge you to keep the purpose, this first part, as simple as possible. That doesn't necessarily make it easy, but it will get easier over time as you build the skill. The purpose is perhaps 2 or 3 words, a topic and an action word. It might look something like this: portfolio prioritization, candidate decision, design review, town hall dry run. It's only a few words, but it does several things. It frames the topic quickly so people can get a sense what you're talking about with a quick scan. It belongs both in the meeting notice and in the title. And the shorter it is, the easier it is to develop the purpose, outcome, process framework. 2 or 3 words and the purpose is done. Do not spend your whole morning polishing it or wordsmithing it. Get the direction right, and get the why in a few words and move on. The discipline and precision that either saves or loses a meeting comes in the next steps. Write your purpose at the top of your meeting notice. If it fits in 5 words, put it in the subject line too. If it doesn't fit in 5 words, you haven't finished thinking about it yet, and you need to loop back until you get it tight. After your purpose, the outcome comes next. You cannot design a path without a destination, and you cannot know who you need there unless you know what you're building toward. The Latin is useful here. Agenda is from the Latin agere, to act. Things that must be acted upon. Not things to discuss, things to finish. An agenda is not a list of things to browse. It is a list of things to close, a list of things to deliver, a list of things to get done. A meeting without an outcome is like an hour of browsing, followed by a second trip to the same store. This is where the discipline tends to break down for people, and the failure is generally the same. They write a purpose, then they write it again with different words and call it an outcome. Remember, the purpose is the why the meeting exists, and the outcomes are the deliverables, what you need to walk away with. An outcome is what you carry out of the room. Purpose is directional, and we try to keep it as simple as possible to anchor the mind. The outcome is concrete and checkable. A purpose is advance our culture. An outcome is 3 joint commitments, each with a named owner in writing. You can argue about whether trust was built or whether culture was built. You cannot argue about 3 commitments being written down. Outcomes need to be specific, and you can have more than one provided that you have a time and a process to get there. The outcomes are generally better captured in bullet point form. If there are several, make several separate bullets. Examples: the top 3 priorities and 2 things we won't do. A candidate decision so we can proceed with an offer letter. Action items before the town hall goes live. An outcome you cannot verify at the end of the meeting is not actually an outcome. Application: write your outcomes as physical artifacts. They should be tangible, a recorded decision, a document approved, a list of 3 owned and dated. If you cannot hold it or photograph it or paste it in an email when the hour ends, it's not an outcome. Process. Name the path. Once you have your outcomes defined, your process is your plan to get there. Process is the method and the steps to deliver your outcome. Keep in mind there's more than one kind of meeting, and each runs with its own recipe and way to interact with and engage the room. Below are a few examples with notes of their process. The brainstorm. Post-it notes, either physical or digital. Silent generation, then a share out. Prevents groupthink and surfaces ideas from people who are internal processors. The convergence. Dot voting. Each person allocates their votes. Before you close, they share their rationale, because a decision that nobody understands and it's not documented will be revisited. The project update. 5 minutes of update, 10 minutes of questions. It forces discipline for the presenter and creates space and gives the room time to engage instead of just receive. The decision. Make the case, hear the objections, decide in the room. Name a challenger before you walk in, someone whose job is to argue the other side. You don't need a minute-by-minute agenda. The bar's lower than that. But it should be well structured enough so it can be facilitated with preparedness and purpose. Here's the move that most meeting owners miss. The meeting process is not a delivery mechanism for what they need. It's a design decision for the people that you invited. What I call death by PowerPoint happens when the process is designed around the presenter rather than around the room. The room just becomes an audience of bystanders. Disengaged observers. They give you less, they remember less, they commit to less. So don't just present, design it the other way. When the process invites the room to participate, to react, to contribute, to rank, to co-create, to push back, they lean in. The output improves and the alignment builds naturally. People support what they helped shape, what they helped create, what they helped prioritize. The decision doesn't belong to the person who ran the meeting. It belongs to the room. Application. Name the type of meeting in the invite in plain words. And for that outcome, call out the process to get there. Ask yourself, what does the promise ask the room to do? If the answer is sit and watch, redesign. Your one move. Open with this live in your meeting. We are here for your purpose. We'll walk out the room with your outcomes. Here's how we get there. The process. 30 seconds to set the room. When your purpose, outcome, and process is clear, meetings have a better outcome for you and a better experience for the participants. But something else results. The people who actually need to be in the room become obvious. Not because the list got cut, but because the meeting defined itself. The roles the meeting needs flows directly from the process you named. A divergence needs somebody protecting half-formed ideas. A decision meeting needs a designated challenger. Someone whose explicit job is to argue the other side so that rigor isn't misinterpreted as agreement. An hour for an agreed outcome needs someone writing down what was decided. Because a decision that's not recorded is one that you will relitigate. You don't figure that out in the room, you figure that out when you build your purpose, process, and outcome. This isn't just an efficiency gain, it's a form of respect. The invisible tax of a vague meeting isn't just a wasted hour. It is the 9 people who couldn't tell if this mattered for them, so they showed up just in case. So here's your one move. Take the next meeting you're about to schedule and write 3 lines in the invite body. Purpose, 2 to 3 words, such as portfolio prioritization. Outcome, the artifact we walk away with, such as top 10 ranked opportunities. Process, how we're going to get there. A dot exercise with a share out of rationale. Then look at your invite list again. I suspect it might get shorter. A better outcome from you, a better experience for those invited and not invited. Subscribe to Unlock for more. We'll give you a new piece every week.